And we are on with Mark Slaughter. How you doing, Mark?
Doing good. How's it going with you?
Oh, good. Life is good. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Ditto.
So many things to cover with you. You're doing some Slaughter tour dates. You're doing this new single, and of course, we can talk about your past a bit. And you helped me out on a Kiss tribute. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about. But let's go with the most important. Never Giving Up is a brand new single, your first solo single. Why don't you tell me a little bit about it? And of course, it's all for a good cause too, right?
Absolutely. It's for the Red Circle Foundation. What it is these guys basically do the gap funding where for military special ops guys that where the government drops the ball. And it can range from anything from, burial costs where sometimes if somebody passes away and they don't even send the body back for a month, that would step forward. If a woman is in Afghanistan, she's got a daughter who's wanting to do ballet lessons, they'll cover the ballet lessons. So it's like, there's all these really cool things that they do with pretty much no restriction. 100% of the proceeds go to that, so it's pretty cool.
And how did you get tied in with them? Do you know somebody who's been helped by them, or you just felt, I need to do a single and I'm going to find a cause, or how did it come about?
Well, I kind of wrote the song, it's kind of like for all of those who've been through so much adversity,
okay.
Country, that's the key. And, what I wanted to do was just do something of thanks. And just to say, hey, I really appreciate what you've done. And put this song together, and I think it's, we all have our tough times, and we all face, our own things. And what I wanted to do is just really put a song as a support to those who are going through it, support in a song. So, I'm real pleased with the outcome of it. I played everything on it. I played the bass, the guitar, I wrote the song. I had a gentleman named Mark Gooden play drums. He's a gentleman I went to high school with years ago. And great drummer, great guy. And he knocked the drums out and did a phenomenal job on it.
Now, did I hear right that he had some kind of event in his life where he hurt his legs or something, and him coming back to drumming was a challenge?
Well, no, he basically stepped away from
okay.
all of it.
Okay.
Yeah, he did have some issues when he was younger. He did have some issues. I mean, he had broke both his legs.
Right.
And, that definitely was, something that was really hard for him to get back in the saddle on it. But, it basically, here we are as we get a little older, and kind of my friends reintroduced us, and he said, I'm still doing it, I'm still rocking, I'd love to play on something, and he sent me a video, and it just blew my mind how he was playing, and I said, I got an idea. So we just started working on a lot of music, and, and this is one of the songs that came out of all the stuff that we were doing.
Yeah, it's a great sounding track, by the way. So let me ask you about this being a Mark Slaughter track. The band Slaughter is basically backing up Vince Neil these days, and so that's left you odd man out. Does that mean there's going to be more Mark Slaughter singles coming, and maybe even a Mark Slaughter solo album coming?
Well, I wouldn't put that out of the question as far as doing other music, because I'm a musician, so I'm continuously creating.
Right.
So that's also a very good chance of that happening. Actually, yeah.
Good. Have you started anything? Do you have like 10 demos lying around, or stuff from the past that you want to revisit, or is it? Okay,
I've got a lot of material. Okay. I mean, I've got more material I know what to do with, but I think that really what it is I wanted to focus on a single and do this and
Good.
Get that out there, and obviously Slaughter still that's my band, and I'm
Yep.
still doing that with Dana Strum this many years later from the ashes of the Vinnie Vincent Invasion, and here we are.
Oh, you said those magical words. We'll get to that after, but oh, you've thrown me off now. Now I heard Vinny, I get all excited.
Yeah.
But I don't want to suggest that because I just listened to my question, and I didn't want to suggest that Slaughter has thrown you out or anything, because you are doing tour dates with them this summer, right?
Oh, yeah, we've got 25 dates on the books.
Wow. So
it's not, you know what it is? I think what it is, when you get, I hate to say it, but when you get older,
mm-hmm.
There's really there's no like jealousy. There's no, hey man, you shouldn't be talking to that band because you're in this band. It's just like everybody makes music, Vince and I are fine. He's a good guy. He's always been nice to me, so, there are no issues there. I'm glad those guys are getting a chance to play, and I think they do probably a better job than most people would ever believe that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm proud of that because that's my guys,
Yeah. Speaking of sort of the new reality, is it exciting that you can just get into your studio and put up a song without having to worry about all the financing from a record company and all the politics? You just got in there and you did never given up, and within a couple of days it's on the internet.
Pretty much. I mean, I had the song finished, and I called a friend of mine, Michael Wagner, and I said, hey, do you want to mix this with me? Better to use somebody's ears who's been doing it for so long and has 95 million, sales of a track record underneath his name. And he's great. And we sat down and, spent a couple days listening to it and kind of got a vibe going, and he mixed it, and he did a great job. Just a great job. And again, he's just class A talent, that guy.
Yeah, he really is. And the song's great. Now another song that's great is your version of the track Unholy. Some people may or may not know, my father-in-law passed away. He was in a palliative care center. I put together this Kiss tribute called A World with Heroes for him, and I called you up and you said, yeah, I'll do this. And what was interesting, you said, I want to play guitar on Unholy. Why did you want to play guitar and not sing it?
It's a Vinnie written track.
Yeah.
He wrote that track. So, what better thing to do than to, in the style of Vinnie Vincent, go in there and rock some guitar.
Yeah, and you killed it. It's a great version.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's fun. I like playing guitar. It's a fun thing to do. Being a lead singer is one thing, and I enjoy it, of course. But it's all those years where I used to teach, and I'd sit around and play and play and play. And there's, when I'm at home, I play a lot of guitar, and then when I get out on the road, I just kind of. Again, I go into lead singer mode, so I'm not sitting there playing, unless I'm doing like the scrap metal thing, which I also play a lot more guitar. But other than that, it's just kind of, it's just fun to do. So, when you called with that, of course, I was glad to do it, and I think the end result of the track, it turned out great.
Yeah, and I think you surprised a lot of people, because when they saw the name, in the press releases and on the album, they said, oh, which song does he sing? And then when they realized you were only playing guitar, they went, oh. And then they heard it and they went, oh, now I get it. I mean, it was brilliant, honestly.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad people dug it. It was fun doing it, and again, the song was great, and it was interesting to do it in a totally different flavor. I mean, Vinnie wrote the song, but he didn't play on the album, on that song, but he wrote it, so it was perfect. So on that side of it too. To be do it in that style of what I would interpret him doing on that.
Now, Kiss fans would never forgive me if I didn't ask you a couple of Vinnie Invasion songs, and I'm not talking about slinging mud or being nasty, but how was it first joining that band? I mean, this was your first experience really to get on a major label, and you had a guy that was all over MTV coming out of Kiss. Were you nervous about the gig? Were you excited? Were you That's all right. It's just another gig. Just sort of bring me back to that first day where you got the news and you had the audition, and
Well, I think the thing that really blew my mind is, Dana called me up and said, "Hey, I need you in Hollywood, tomorrow."
But
And I
how
was
did he
like,
know
"What?"
of you?
Well, there's a gentleman named Todd Cooper who is Jay Cooper's son.
Right.
Todd Cooper's an entertainment attorney, and so is his father. His father actually represents Streisand and a couple other small names like that. But he basically heard of me through a lot of people, and he knew what he heard as a vocalist. And then, so Dana said, "Why don't you come out?" And then I went out and, sang a couple things, and lo and behold, basically, I quit my guitar teaching job and I put my guitar down.
Right.
So here I was playing, teaching 279 lessons a month to no guitar, and here's a microphone, and be a singer. So, it's very different for me. It's very, very different.
Yeah, it really was. And so you get into the studio and you start recording the first album for the Invasion. Was it a sort of a straight ahead process, or was there a lot of rewrites and second guessing, and this is really going to be an instrumental thing with, the vocals will really be an afterthought, or was it a team?
Well, Vinnie's a writer. And, again, the truth of the matter is he writes good songs. Dana's very good at arranging.
I'll give him that.
And between that, Bobby Rock is a great drummer.
Absolutely.
And so, there's just a lot of elements in that. But I think that at the end of the day, the Invasion was the Invasion, and I just don't. It'll never be repeated. It will never be repeated in that type of over the top way of doing it.
Was that did the what's the word I want to use here? Did the look go too far with the big poofy hair and the pink? Because I know the '80s was hair metal, but this was sort of like extra fluffy in terms of look. Did that hurt the band, you think?
I don't know if it hurt the band. I think that the band had what it had as far as it's people. The band, it was, how should I put it? As far as the look of the band, I think that the key was with it is that it was just over the top, and that's what Vinnie wanted. He just wanted to make it over the top to where people said, "Man, that's the craziest thing ever." Right. A little bit over the top of where I would think that I'd want to go with it, but I'm a young guy. It's kind of like, you want to do this, you want to do in a band, do this. I was like, okay,
Here we go. Now, do you get uncomfortable talking about the Invasion?
I really don't. It's just that, in the scope of it all, it was a great process. It was a good, I have great memories of touring with Alice Cooper and Iron Maiden. Again, two of one of my favorite bands at that time. Loved the band. So, to me, at that young age, to go out with those two acts was like, I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And so it was great. It was really, really great.
What did you know Dana very well before the Invasion, or just sort of had heard of him?
Knew him a little bit, and he also knew that he was aware of my talent. I don't think Vinnie was really into the whole idea of me being the singer.
Okay.
Truth of the matter is, and the record company was kind of on the. They loved the idea of the guys who would replace Fleischman. Obviously, Rob didn't want to tour with it.
Right.
And nor did he make the record thinking that he was going to do that.
Right.
I think he was just looking at it as, hey, I'll get paid for the record, and that's that. And I don't think he thought that anything would happen with it. And again, I've never even met the guy. I don't know anything about him. But he's, he wrote some good songs. Barbara Fleischman wrote Wheel in the Sky for Journey,
Great song.
Yeah, great song, good talent. And You know, again, that first record without me was great, but I toured the whole record. I sang it every night, you know. But you know, the second record was more of, you know, all of us doing our thing. It was a reflection of Hollywood at that time because, you know, we had to live there to do the record, and you know, and Robin Crosby was, you know, producing in one room, and Stryper was in the other, and you know, some good friends that we made for, you know, lifetime friends out of the deal, and it was cool.
When did you and Dana say, okay, we've got to go do something else?
Well, Dana and Vinnie just came to the end. They were just done. Okay. And basically Dana said, or Vinnie said to me, I'm firing Dana, where does your loyalty lie? Okay. And, you know, Dana was, you know, he stood up for me and was a friend, and you know, Vinnie was harsh in many ways to me. Okay. And I just said, you know, I'd rather be in the gutter with Dana than to do, you know, to continue this. So find a replacement for me as well. And, you know, I wish you luck, and, you know, no hard feelings, and, you know,
off we go.
Hope you continue on and everything else. And, you know, our last show was a Celebrity Theater just when Love Killed was taking off on MTV. In fact, at that time, the record label was tired of Vinnie, and they dropped Vinnie. And then they had what they call a leaving member agreement that I had to sign. Every member of all these bands had to sign a leaving member agreement. What? And a leaving member agreement was caused by the Steve Stevens departure from Billy Idol. Right. Because what happened is he turned around, and he was such a principal in that whole thing. He turned around and got signed with Warner Brothers, and, you know, Chrysalis missed out on signing Steve Stevens. So Jeff Aldrich, who was the A&R guy, had everybody on the roster who was, you know, somebody who's in a band, so to speak, have to sign a leaving member agreement, which meant that you would have to, the leaving member agreement meant that you would take you basically...
They have a right of first refusal?
You had 3 songs you'd have to submit to the record label that they would pay for, and if they liked it, you were signed under the agreement that was structured prior to.
Was that a good thing or a bad thing for you? Because do you go in there and say, let's make 3 really shitty demos so they let us out of it? Or do you say, wow, I've got a record contract waiting for me, I got to really impress? What's the mindset? And it wasn't a great record contract either. Okay. It was, so, you know, it was like fair, but not great. So what happened is we made the demos and everybody flipped out. Actually, to the point where we had some other record labels take us into meetings, and they'd say, well, listen, we wanted to talk to you about your production, but it was all bullshit. All they wanted to do was try to figure out if they could get us off Chrysalis so that they could sign us to their label. And we're talking big labels. We're talking big money. But it was kind of like one of those things. If we felt that if we could have the control artistically, produce it ourselves and do what we did, would be better than going with somebody else and then telling us how to do it. Right. So, inevitably, we told Chrysalis, look, we want to do this. They picked up the option, and they said, but we said, if you want us to do this, what you have to do is you have to let us have no A&R, you just let us be. Right. And they did. It seemed to work out. Now, just going back to Dana being fired, was there any specific incident that set Dana and Vinnie on a collision course, or is it just sort of this growing malaise all the way through?
It's just, you know, Vinnie wasn't happy with the production. He didn't like it. He thought it sounded like garbage, and, you know, he still to this day says, I'm going to remake the record without Mark and without this guy. I mean, you know, it's, you know, this many years later, you know, almost 30 years later, and he's still talking about remaking a record that was done that time. I mean, it's done. Yeah, you know, there's not enough people that really care about the record. What Vinnie should do, in my opinion, is go make some new music and give the fans what they want. He's a good writer. He's a good guitar player. There's, you know, that's the truth. You know, despite our differences and everything else that's gone on there, you know, I haven't talked to the guy since 1988. But he's talented, and he should be doing something.
He is talented.
He'd never say that about me. But you know, I'm a bigger man here. You know, I'm a bigger man.
Well, you know, listen, I've always personally felt that he didn't belong in Kiss, but I would say, you know, Eddie Van Halen didn't belong in Kiss, or Neil Peart from Rush doesn't belong in Kiss. He just didn't belong, and it's not a personality thing. But, well, like, you know what, did he save Kiss according to you?
According to me, I think so.
Okay.
I do, and the reason why is because he wrote the songs that were of that time.
Okay, I'll give you that.
You know, look it up. That was the song. That was the '80s, man. That was mid '80s right there. That was when it was all going on. That's, you know, that was setting it up for. I mean, it was obviously early '80s, but it was setting up the sound of what everybody was doing at that time.
Okay, but because my contention has always been that Quiet Riot saved Kiss, in the sense that they had a #1 album. Then Def Leppard came along with Pyromania. Ozzy was going crazy with Randy Rhoads. And the record company said, we need to sign hard rock bands. That's the trend. So I've always thought that it wasn't really Vinnie or Kiss that saved themselves. It was just the industry that saved them.
No, I wouldn't say, did they save Kiss was the question.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
The question is, yes, he did save Kiss. But I think the reason why I say that is because he brought a new style of song. And again, that era of that is almost forgotten in a lot of Kiss show. But it did set the pace for Hot in the Shade and all the other records after that.
Right, and Hot in the Shade is the tour that you were on with Kiss, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it Revenge?
That's correct.
No, it was Hot in the Shade. It was, hold on, I saw the Hot in the Shade show. Was that Winger and Slaughter, or was it White Lion and Slaughter?
It was Winger and Slaughter. Yeah, we did the whole tour.
Oh, that's funny, because I'm actually interviewing Kip Winger tomorrow. So, well, let's just quickly talk about that tour. You know, Hot in the Shade wasn't a phenomenal success for Kiss. What was the feeling on the road? Were the shows selling out? Were you getting a lot of good...
The shows did well, and I think that Kiss has always picked their bands that they tour with very well. They're not stupid. Right. Yeah, these guys know music. They know what's going to work. They're trying to get the things to work as a show,
as a package,
as opposed to say, you know, look, Van Halen would just throw on anybody they want because they almost didn't want anybody else there. Motley Crue doesn't put any of the other bands that are like them on tour with them.
Right, that's true.
They don't, you know. Which, you know, again, that's you know, they're the headliner. They can do it the way they do it. So Kiss, you know, Kiss inevitably. They took Winger, which was hot at the time.
Yeah.
You know, we were getting our video is, you know, easing up to #1, and we ended up doing that tour. The first show we ever did was with Winger and Kiss.
Was
first show we ever did at Lubbock Arena.
That's right. I was just going to ask, did they have any kind of special conditions on you, like you couldn't play for? You know, any kind of special restrictions in terms of lighting, or were they just like, hey, just go out there and do your thing?
I mean, that was like, this is where the line stops. You don't go out in these parts. I mean, you know, all the headliners a lot of times do that. That's so that, you know, the headliners, that's their show. They carry the production, they run the show, and they should be entitled to that. Yeah. You know, and anybody who, you know, would say any different has the wrong type of ego to be doing. They should be doing their own shows if they think different. But I mean, you know, it's a group effort. You know, and you know, Gene and Paul, they were. Look, you know, I know what goes along with what people say and that side of it. They were always very, very good to Slaughter. They were always very good to Slaughter. I have nothing negative to say about Kiss.
Yeah, no, there really isn't anything negative to say about Kiss. I do want to ask you one more Vinnie question, but before I do that, I do want to talk a little bit about Tim Kelly. You know, he's sorely missed. What did he mean to you as a person, and also to Slaughter, the band?
Well, obviously, when Tim passed, it was
Shocking.
such a tragic thing.
Right.
How do you really ever prepare to lose your friend that you rub elbows with on a tour bus for years?
Well, you don't.
You don't. And it was very difficult, and it was hard. And still, I talk about Tim all the time. I probably bring up his name, not every day, every other day.
Yeah.
Because there were some great times in that, and I fondly remember that. And then when Jeff came in, it was very different. Tim was a different type of guitar player. Just a totally different type of guitar player.
Yeah. Look, Jeff is great in the band, and of course, Tim was great. Are there any leftover demos or work with Tim or early Slaughter that at some point might see the light of day?
I've got, only thing we ever did is we did recordings, like we would record our demos or song demos, but our song demos were writing as we were writing the songs.
Right.
So we would write the songs, and then kind of, again, we do things so differently because we write the music and then write the lyrics. And, like out here in Nashville where I'm living now, people write the lyrics sometimes before they even have a note or even have an idea of what the music will be. It's just totally different in how people get there when it comes to writing a song. But, we always wrote our songs with intention and didn't really write much more than that because we were so busy touring and doing other stuff. It wasn't something we just sat around and wrote all the time. We were always on the go. We toured for a year and a half with Kiss and Poison.
Wow. Well, Kiss and Poison or Kiss and Winger?
Well, it was Kiss, and then we did the Poison.
Right. Okay.
Blood.
Right, I see. Okay.
Right before Cece left for a little bit.
Right. I remember that. Speaking of intention, when you wrote "Stick It to You," what was it? What was the intention? Just to make the best rock album, to show Vinnie up, or was it something else?
No, I think that we wanted to write a sound. Ultimately, it's not like you write stuff and you go, this is going to, shove this one in this person's face, or this is going to do this. It was to write a record that would be a soundtrack for people's lives.
Yeah.
I think that that's really what it became. It did do what we wanted it to do. We wanted it to be a part of their life, and we wanted to see girls dancing to it, and they did a lot of that, and it was cool.
When Up All Night and Fly to the Angels hit and got into sort of top 40 and got into Headbangers Ball and, the Power Hour on Much Music, were you surprised? Were you happy? Were you like, now what do we do for the second album? Just how did that all feel?
I don't think we said, I think we just enjoyed the ride. If you look at any pictures of the band at that time, we were laughing the whole time.
Right.
It was a great time. We would do the shows with Kiss, and, Gene would say, Shannon's coming, don't invite a bunch of people backstage, and we'd have like 300 people backstage. And they just, treated us like the funny kids on the block. Hey, well, you guys just got to settle that stuff down. But it was great. We brought a lot of the fans backstage that wouldn't have been backstage just if they could get a hold of us, and usually they could.
Yeah, and the songs still sound, at least those two songs to me, still sound fresh. I saw you last live, what was it, July of last year, 2013?
Yeah, yeah.
And the songs still sound great. It really was a testament to the songwriting and to the band that you had at the time, right?
Yeah, and also if things come together in a natural way sometimes, and that just had a flow. Those songs were written in about 2.5 weeks, and so was Wildlife. Songs that have their own fire are written easy.
Oh, absolutely.
They're not overthought, and I think that's the thing. There wasn't an overthinking on that. It was just doing it we loved it. We did it because we loved it, and it had all the right elements. The stars were aligned just that right way.
It really was. Is there talk of a new Slaughter album, or is there even a reason at this point to have new albums by any band, not just Slaughter?
I just don't know if it makes sense for a lot of bands to go and do that. I mean, Slaughter would be, Dana and I, who live in totally different states, and the rest of the guys live in Florida, and so that means everybody has to go to a central location wherever it is, and the travel expenses and everything else to make a record that might or might not sell anything to even cover the cost if we did that without a record label. Or do we really want to deal with record labels at this point at all? It's kind of like where I'm at with my music right now with the stuff I've done. It's kind of like, let's just make music and, let's see what happens and see if people are still digging it, if they're still liking it.
Yeah, it's got to be very freeing to be able to just, like I said before, just get into a studio, put up a song, throw it on iTunes, and move along. It's so different than back then.
Well, think about that. You called me up about the Kiss tribute.
Right.
Album and said, hey, can you do this? And I said, sure. And you said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to play guitar. And you said, okay, cool. You sent me the track. I did it at my house. I sent the track. We were in the same studio at the time.
We weren't even in the same country.
That's correct. And Mark Goodman, the guy who did the stuff on Never Given Up, he did the track in Las Vegas, and we did things through Skype and through the internet. Yeah. We never even we didn't even, the stuff that we record and the stuff we write and we do is literally done in states, 1,500 plus miles away from each other.
Yeah. It's a brave new world, and it's exciting. I mean, listen, today we're doing this interview via Skype, and it's wonderful. Makes life nice and easy.
Yeah, and the thing is with it, it's just, make the music. I think that ultimately it becomes a thing of no rules and just making music without overthinking it. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm not saying, well, is this the right thing or is this? I'm not second guessing it. I'm just creating. That's what an artist does. An artist creates, and if it's good or bad, it's their art. And that's really where it's at. And I think, so far we've never given up. We've had some really good response on it, and we're just starting on it, just starting.
So let's, before we forget, let's tell people where to get it. So you can go to Amazon.com, and you can download it there. You can go to iTunes and download Never Giving Up there as well. Any place else?
Google Play. Any place that has, has any type of downloadability, I'm sure that, they're going to have the track. It's through all those outlets. It's all there.
And if people want to find you online, they want to say hello, send you an email, or say, hey, I love your new song, where can they find you?
Basically, the official Mark Slaughter page on Facebook.
Okay.
And also Slaughter will have a new website if people are interested in the band. I've actually put a new website together.
Okay.
It's going to be slaughterusa.com.
Okay.
I would imagine that. And that should be up in the next 2 or 3 days, I would think.
So slaughterusa.com. And
right, and that's going to have tour dates. Basically, it's just so people know where we're at and where we're playing and stuff like that.
Right, it's more of an information page rather than an interactive kind of thing. It's just come up here and find some facts and where we're playing, which is fair enough. And and before we wrap up, so let me just go back to that Vinnie question. Why do you think 30 years later he hasn't had greater success by himself or by joining another band? And do you have any good Vinnie stories you'd like to share? Good or bad, by the way. It doesn't have to be bad.
As far as stories of Vinnie, I really don't have. He was an okay guy. One time we were at a mall and I said, "Hey, Vinnie, let's go take a picture of Santa." He goes, "Really?" And I go, "We have to take a picture with Santa." So I made him take a picture with Santa. I'm the only person that has the picture, and it's funny, but that's something that was out of character for him. But he would humor me, and there were some laughs there. There were some good times, and But you know, as far as like stories, you know, he's just an artist. He's just a very, very
complicated artist.
He is complicated, and again, Gene would say the same thing. And so would, you know, many other people that know his guitar playing. His guitar playing, he can play some Jeff Beck stuff so dead on to Jeff Beck, it's just like ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, here's a story. He was playing backstage and showing us all these Jeff Beck stuff, and all the Iron Maiden guys came back into our dressing room, which was really small at the time, and said, "Wow, why don't you play like that?" And Vinny goes, "It's boring."
Whoa, he thinks Jeff Beck is boring. Okay.
Well, meaning that it wasn't is it boring? No, it was not challenging for him, and that's that. Again, again, it's an artist, and the artist has a way they want to do their art.
Yeah, listen.
So it's not wrong. It's just that he had an interpretation of how he wanted his art to sound, how he wanted to do it.
Which is fair enough, and I'll stick to my point of view that yes, he is a good writer. Yes, he is a good guitarist. He just didn't fit in Kiss, and I'll you know, frame it by saying...
And you know what? And he didn't fit in Kiss, but I think that in that dynamic, I think they had good songs, which in turn, ultimately, on any aspect, has become part of the soundtrack for those of us, you know, Kiss fans and those people along the way. It's part of our life, too, which, it's all good. You know, it's all good.
Yeah, I agree. So... again, let's remind folks, the new single is Never Giving Up, and it comes in help of, repeat the charity again for me?
It's called the Red Circle Foundation.
Okay.
It can be found at redcirclefoundation.org.
Perfect. And you can find the single on Google Play, iTunes, Amazon. Pick it up, support Mark. Always important. And go see a Slaughter show. They're coming to your town
soon. Absolutely. Come on down and see the band, and you know, for all those fans who've been there all those years, we appreciate it. You know, we don't take it lightly. We know, you know, they've been there, and we appreciate it. And we really do.
You know what? I'll give you that. You don't give it lightly. I've seen thousands of shows in my life, and I've seen a lot of them in the last few years, where some of the sort of, you know, classic rock bands come in and they sort of just, you know, paint by numbers. They give you a couple of greatest hits and then they go have a drink at the bar. But you just worked it. That whole band. I mean, your drummer Zoltan throwing drumsticks everywhere, and Jeff doing his best, Randy Rhoads, Zakk Wylde, and you're singing your heart. I mean, it was insane. It was as if you were a bunch of 20-year-olds trying to be discovered.
Well, and I think that, you know what, if you've got fire in you, it doesn't go away. You know, you just have to harness it and do it. And again, we still have the passion for the music. We still have the passion for the songs we wrote. And again, we wrote it. It wasn't somebody else that made us do something different. So it's probably closer to our hearts when, you know, many of the bands who are produced and their songs are written by other people, that's us. Slaughter is us. Yeah. And it's the outcome of it, and again, by that, it's, you know, Dana and I have always, you know, been proud and very happy with what we did on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. So slaughterusa.com, get the single. Thank you, Mark. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah, catch you soon. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.